What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Go Talk with Marcus, powered by Poddex, fueled by Go Fuel. It's been a really long time since we've been on the show, but Martin Soaries is back on the show to talk all things NBA offseason, NBA free agency. What's up, man? How you been?
I'm great, man. I'm great. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on again. I love the show. I love seeing what the show's doing, and I'm glad to be back, man. Thanks for having me. It's always good to be able to come through and talk some hoop with you.
I appreciate you for coming on. I know you're a busy man. I appreciate the high praise. Um, as of this recording, today is Thursday, and it's the beginning of NBA free agency, or at least the moratorium that started about 2 hours ago. And we'll get into that in a second and talk about obviously the big news of KD wanting out of Brooklyn. But before we do that, let's talk about last week's draft. The draft was on Thursday. A lot of big names coming in. Who do you think won the draft, and who do you think lost the draft if you had to assign those?
I feel like it's going to be tough to say because of the nature of this draft. Just clear cut winners and losers. I think there were a lot of really good potential investments. I wasn't really too caught up in the who's like number one and who ended up going like those top three guys. I mean, I feel like all three guys will be pretty good players. One, I think Jabari might end up being an all-star caliber player, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like Orlando still made out fine getting Paolo at number one. That's just how I feel, and I don't see a clear winner or loser. I saw some interesting things, but I do think that because the thing is Houston and Orlando both got good play, even in Oklahoma City too with Chet. Like they all got good players, but like Houston and Orlando are still a ways away from us knowing if that's going to pan out. I mean, we don't know if these kids are coming in to change their franchises right away. Like I said, people can pretty much agree that these will be fine players, but I feel like and I'm not knocking the draft or knocking the talent. I like the talent across the board, but I don't see enough to say a lot of players moving the needles for these franchises. So it's hard for me to like peg who the real winner. I think a lot of teams could be winners because I think a lot of them could have gotten some pretty good players.
I feel like the most popular answer is Detroit because of all the moves they made, and they were able to get Jaden Ivey, and then they got Jalen Duren from the Knicks. Yeah. And we'll talk about the Knicks a little bit later because Jalen Brunson inked his deal today to go join New York, and I think that was pretty much obvious that was going to happen. Do you think that the Knicks, with all the moves that they made, because they moved a lot of pieces, like they drafted Jalen Duren, they sent him somewhere, and then they also sent Kemba Walker to Detroit, and they sent Nerlens. They just sent out Nerlens Walls like a day or so ago, all to kind of free up space to get Jalen Brunson. Do you think that's a good fit? Because we've seen this before with the Knicks in Julius Randle, where a guy has a really good season elsewhere, and then they come in and they try to make him the number one option. He has one really good year and it results in some good stuff. And then the following year, it doesn't pan out to be like, and Jalen Brunson's fantastic. And he's a national champion from Villanova. Like, do you think that this could be another thing of them trying to force a guy who had a really good season into that number one spot and then it doesn't produce what they think? Or do you think this is like best case scenario for the Knicks, given that this is what they wanted?
I think it's best case scenario. And I don't necessarily think that they're thinking that he's a number one, even with the contract. Like I don't think it's a max deal, right? It's not a max contract.
I think it's 4 years, 110, or 4 years, 100. So if it's not 100% a max, it's about as close you can get to.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that I think that Jalen Brunson is rare enough as a player to make a difference for the Knicks. Yeah. I don't even as incompetent as they may seem, I don't think they're delusional enough to think that Jalen Brunson is the one who's going to lead them to the promised land. They know it's going to take more than that. But I like that addition for them because Jalen Brunson cooks people. He is a certified cooker. He averaged like 27 against. You see him against Utah in the playoffs. Like That was some rare, like, cook you stuff. And New York they deserve something like that. They deserve something like that. And it's not, he doesn't just have that. That was the part of his game that I got more familiar with in this past year. The last couple years I've been watching him in Dallas. He's really just added to his package and his game, especially offensively. But he's, like you said, he went to Villanova. He's always been a winner, and he's always been a really sound fundamental guard. We always saw that side of it, but he's started to kick up, and he's gonna kick up for the Knicks. So that's really good for them. They still just need more. That's all it is. They need more. Like I think that was a great move for them. I think it was best case scenario, especially for a guard. I think that was great for them. But they obviously still need more. But I love that for them, because he's a winner and he can cook people. Yeah. So that kind of culture that he can bring as a player is big for them, I think.
And the family tree for Jalen Brunson runs deep with New York's front office and their decision makers. But let's talk about Dallas, we're talking about a Dallas Mavericks team who was in the Western Conference Finals. And a week and a half or 2 weeks ago when they got Christian Wood, we're talking about this being a team that could maybe go back, and then they've lost their second option to Luka. Is there a way that Dallas can try to recoup that and attempt to at least replace Jalen Brunson? Or do you think like it's going to be tough?
No, I think they'll be fine. I mean, he was really important for them, but they were without Tim Hardaway Jr. I don't know what his situation is like, but that was one of the reasons I said, man, they could be even more dangerous if they had THJ in there, because he can light it up too. But I think obviously with Luka still running the show, you still have other weapons, other guards. Like you got Dinwiddie still. I don't know what his situation is either, but you still have other guards. It was kind of going to get clogged anyway. I mean, I think that was part of it too. Not part of why they lost or anything. I mean, having Brunson alongside what Luka was doing was a big reason why they even made it to the conference finals anyway. So they are going to have to fill that void. But I mean, I think they'll be fine. But they're going to have to figure it out. It's going to have to be someone else that steps up, because a lot of times Jalen Brunson was looking like at least their second best player.
Yeah. And as we say that, I just got a notification that JaVale McGee just signed with Dallas, 3-year, $20.1 million deal with a player option in the third year. So that's some nice addition for Dallas down low, which I thought was their biggest need going into this offseason. So they've addressed that twice. Now let's talk about Kevin Durant. And before we get into the big news of him wanting out of Brooklyn, let's talk about the whole Kevin Durant legacy thing. And the last time, for those of you guys who weren't here the last time my guy Martin was on the show, we kind of had a little bit of a legacy conversation, but it was about LeBron James. So this time we're going to talk about KD. Obviously, Golden State's won the chip now for the fourth time in 8 years, their first chip post KD. And people are saying, well, look at what Golden State's done after KD, and look at what KD has done after Golden State. Do you think that's a fair argument to make and to hold against Kevin Durant, given that now his former team has won a championship and he has been to the playoffs one time in the last 3 years, or twice in the last 3 years, but got swept this past season? Are you one of those that are kind of subscribing to this is hurting Kevin Durant's legacy with Golden State having won a chip without him?
No, not really. Not really. Not really. I mean, the fact is, I mean, of course, it adds to it because of who won. But no matter who wins, if it's not you, there's more pressure when you're one of those elite guys.
Sure.
There's more pressure. Like Giannis isn't going to get as much because he just won last year. But everyone, even LeBron, still takes heat when his teams. I mean, when you're one of the elite guys, you're going to get it's the pressure's on you anyway. But yeah, it does add to it that it's the Warriors, of course. Again, I just feel like I'm holding Kevin Durant to that standard either way. Like I'm looking at how, as good as he is to me and to most people, he should be competing for championships. I mean, he shouldn't be swept in the first. I mean, that's
he should not be getting swept,
regardless of Golden State, anything else. It's like you still got to win. You got other. You just got to get it done. And I think what's most interesting about KD now that we're seeing is that it's becoming really important the kind of team that he's on and the kind of people and the kind of players that he's playing with.
Yes.
he's not the first to be on or to create a super team.
Mm-hmm.
But there was just, you're seeing everyone say like he should just go back to the Warriors. Like that, he should just figure out how to get back to Golden State, because clearly, that was the best situation for you. And he had the most fun there, and obviously he won there, and he was still elite. It's not like he got to backseat and chill and let them do the work. He did the heavy lifting. He just happened to be playing with other players who were on an extremely high level, just like him.
Yeah.
So I think and I'm not going again. I know Kevin Durant can still and probably will be the best player on a championship team at some point. It's just a 100%. Matter of when we see the trade destinations that he's putting out there. Yeah. It's just becoming interesting, like the kind of team that I'm not like saying like he needs a whole lot of help and all that. I'm not going there. I'm just saying he really, I think, is understanding, especially with this whole Kyrie situation. It's like, man, if like he's really having to decide, okay, do I want to be elite and win? Do I want to just hoop? Like the whole, like, oh, he just wants to hoop, Yeah. Like, what do I really want to make of the, this next part of, this last part of the elite part of my career? So I think that's the interesting part about it.
I've always gone to bat for Kevin Durant. I don't think that's ever going to stop, especially with this. I think we're very quick to kind of look at these situations and forget the big picture. And I think the big picture is, Kevin Durant left Golden State, but I've said this for the past week and a half, 2 weeks now. Kevin Durant, in a way, got bullied out of Golden State. Like, there was issues with him and Draymond Green, and that made him leave. But, like, what did everyone say after Kevin Durant was winning those chips? Is they're not going to matter unless what? Unless he goes somewhere else and wins a championship. So what did Kevin Durant do? Being the competitor and the kind of guy that he is, all right, I'm going to go somewhere else, and I'm going to prove to you that I can win a championship. Well, his first season in Brooklyn, he didn't play because he was coming off the Achilles. His second season in Brooklyn, he plays phenomenally. He's an MVP candidate, right? What happens, though? James Harden's hurt, doesn't show himself, and Kyrie Irving's hurt and also isn't there. Despite all of that, we're still talking about a team that, again, we can play the what if game and it's very dangerous, but the facts are facts. If his foot's an inch shorter, they're moving on to the second round, and who knows what happens. The Nets could have won a championship last season. And then, of course, this season, what's the one thing everybody's talking about? Well, if Kyrie Irving would have got vaccinated and would have played more games, then they would have been in a better position and could have won a championship this season. So I feel like we're being very hard on Kevin Durant and picking and choosing when we want to acknowledge that these things happened and when we don't. The fact of the matter remains is that Kevin Durant's a two-time champion. Kevin Durant is a two-time Finals MVP. Before even joining Golden State, Kevin Durant was a scoring champion and an MVP, and he was still a very elite player. Obviously, joining Golden State bolstered his resume because he's a champion now and a Finals MVP. Right. But he was still a phenomenal player and was still on the verge, on the cusp of being a top 10 player in the league. And I think we've forgotten about that because he's now left, and it doesn't fit the narrative anymore that he should have never left.
Well, I mean, like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I said the same thing in a group chat recently, bro. I said, yo, I'm starting to understand why KD left. Like, people are always,
because if KD stayed,
like, he could win 7, he could win 8. But the amount of drama, it's all this. Like, he's still dealing with it, and he's not even. Imagine if he was still there. Like, that whole narrative, him versus Steph, and who this and what, like, even they were winning. They won 2 straight, and it was just
on the verge of a three-peat if they didn't get the injury bug.
Bro, it was too, like, I'm starting to understand why he left. It wasn't just like, oh, I need to win without Steph to prove that it's not even about, like, I just feel like the all that extra stuff. Yeah, they could have won on to win 4, 5, 6, or whatever, but like he might have been miserable.
He might have been
miserable. He only left because he felt like it was just all the extra stuff was making him miserable, no matter what the potential was for that team. So I started to really start to understand that recently.
So again, Kevin Durant earlier today dropped the bombshell that he wants out of Brooklyn, and I believe on his wish list is Miami, Phoenix, Philadelphia, and I can't think of that fourth team, but there's one other team that's out there. I did see something actually before we started recording that Kyrie is very adamant about forcing his way into LA. KD has said that he still wants to play with Kyrie, and apparently the Lakers potentially have a potential trade package to get KD and Kyrie in the event that is something they think that they can do. With all of that being said, Kevin Durant forcing out, where do you think he's gonna go, and what do you think is the best fit for KD at this point?
You see. This is what I'm talking about, man. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Marcus, we are in a very, very interesting spot right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna break this down for you as simply as I can.
Please do. Please do.
In 2018, there was a tweet tweeted by my friend who used to write for my site, Brandon Scoop B. Robinson. He's now an insider with Bally Sports. He tweeted, this was, I believe, July, was sometime in the summer, 2018, that he had it from a source. I just happened to know that his source was the same source who told him that LeBron was going to the Lakers. Brandon was the first one to break that story, by the way. The same source who told him that told him in 2018 that Kevin Durant was going to be a Laker next year, that him and LeBron James, you can look up the tweet from Brandon Scoop B. Robinson. He put this down, and we talked about this situation, how KD and LeBron were going to form the best duo of all time, and their plan was to have KD be the face of the Lakers post LeBron. Now, what's happening now, with what you just said, I mean, look, everything's happening literally in real time as we're talking right now. So the fact that you just said that, because I've been waiting to find out if everyone's been talking about Kyrie to the Lakers, but I hadn't heard anything from Kyrie to imply that he wanted to go. But everyone's talking about the Kyrie LeBron reunion, Kyrie to the Lakers. The Lakers are interested. I hadn't heard anything until what you just said to imply that Kyrie was interested in the Lakers.
Yeah. So the full thing has been that Kyrie, and I mentioned this on the show that I guested on Wednesday, but also, like I've been saying it, a lot of people and we'll talk about it in a second in depth. A lot of people have making a big deal of Kyrie opting in as like, oh, that means he's staying in Brooklyn. Kyrie opting in for $36.5 million simply makes it easier for him to be traded, because it's much harder to find a sign and trade partner than it is to just straight up find a trade partner. Right. It's still possible that the Nets and the Lakers are in communication as it pertains to what a trade for Kyrie Irving would look like. But to your point, up until a couple minutes before we went on, and I saved it because I wanted to get your reaction for when we went on, Kyrie is adamant about going to LA. Like, that is what the tea leaves are saying. That is what reports are saying. He wants to be there. And because KD and Kyrie still want to play ball, the Lakers have two trade packages, apparently. A trade package potentially for just Kyrie, and a potential trade package for getting KD and Kyrie, because these two gentlemen do still want to play together. It is insane. It's insane.
In order for the last time I was on your show, which was the first time I was on your show, you asked me about LeBron James passing Michael Jordan, and I told you that he had to get at least two more. He got to get to 6. Yeah, he's got to run it up, and he's got to get one more in LA for sure, at least.
Sure.
The way things are looking, Golden State has risen back to power. Giannis is still alive and well. He's coming back. He's fresh. He's ready. Things are getting harder, not easier. LeBron is getting older, not younger.
Yeah.
LeBron, and look, this Westbrook thing just blew up on him. Didn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I know LeBron still wants to win. I know he wants to go out on top. I know he's still, he's still playing high level basketball. And he's with the organization that's known to, as we know, to make big moves, to make things happen. I am sure that LeBron is in there like, yo, bro, Kevin Durant is on the market. Yeah, every team. I saw some reporter tweeted how everything in free agency is basically going to stop until people know what Kevin Durant is doing, and that's going to influence a lot of people's decisions. Like, KD is on the market. You know how many teams are probably on that? I said earlier, I said, yo, the Lakers will be. Wait for the Lakers to make their offer. They will make their offer for at least KD. They might have to pick one, bro. I don't know how they could pull off getting Kyrie and KD.
So I just kind of put in a mock trade on ESPN's trade simulator to kind of see if the salaries would match, because we're essentially talking, I don't think they'll get both, but the Lakers have a trade offer for both. I would be shocked if it doesn't include Russ. and AD. Russ just opted into his 47.1. If you just look at it and if you just try to trade those guys straight up, the salary differential would be about $7 million, give or take a couple. As far as what KD and Kyrie salaries are together and what Russ and AD salaries are together. So the Lakers would have to the Nets would have to throw in a couple more players to get it to match. So we're talking like maybe a Nick Claxton and a Cam Thomas in there to kind of get those numbers to match, because it's you're not gonna get the trade to go through without that. It's just really, really interesting. But I think that's a really, really like insane scenario. So we just stick strictly to the teams that KD has on his wish list, and then also if we want to throw in Dame photoshopping KD into a Portland Trailblazers uniform. So we've got Phoenix, we have Philly, we've got Miami, we have Portland. Where do you think KD's going to end up, and which team do you think would be the best fit, like the perfect fit for KD?
Well, Miami was on the list, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, Miami's on the list.
Miami's on the list. I didn't know Philly was on the list.
Phoenix is on the list, but the Nets are only going to trade if Devin Booker's involved, and Phoenix isn't going to do that.
And that doesn't, and that wouldn't, not that it wouldn't make sense, but you might as well not even do that. I think KD, I think the best spot for him is Miami. I think if there's a situation where you look at what Miami is missing and what they need, it's what he brings. They have everything else pretty much. And you insert him into that in with those guys, they will win. That's a situation where if that's maybe the only team. I think Philly, but I just don't see him going back to play with Harden. I don't see why he would. I don't see that. Maybe because maybe he wants to reconcile with Harden after not falling out with Kyrie, but if he wanted to kind of replace that, maybe he's still cool with Harden and he want to do that. And him, Harden, and Embiid is the championship big three. But Miami is the best. Miami is the team that gives KD the best chance to win a championship. Right once he gets on the team, you're like, yeah, they might win it all. Yeah, that would be the type. That would be the best fit. What he brings, they definitely need. Everyone else can do everything else. Move the ball, defense, all that. I mean, they'd have to, and I think they have enough pieces to put together a nice package for Brooklyn too. I feel like they could make a good trade with good pieces and still have enough to bring in KD. And I mean, bro, like send Bam, send a couple shooters, send some. I don't know what they have, but like just.
Well, I know for sure if you're sending KD to Miami, Duncan Robinson's gone because he's gone for sure. He's gone for sure,
bro. I'm sending anybody, bro. Bam can go. As far as I'm concerned, I would send Jimmy. If I'm replacing my centerpiece with Kate, bro, anybody. I'm just shoot. Anybody could go if I'm Miami. I'm not gonna hold you, and then I'll figure the rest out.
I mean, not you would have to Miami. This is a maybe in hindsight, it's not a mistake, but and also Tyler Hero did just sign a 4-year, $100 million deal today as an extension. Miami was adamant about holding on to Tyler Hero in the James Harden negotiations, and that's why James Harden ended up in Philly. I would be absolutely shocked if they try to hold on to Tyler Hero and Kevin Durant's on the table, because the difference is James Harden fat suited or lost weight, gained weight, all that stuff twice, and it messed up his flow and things. But like Kevin Durant, when he's healthy, and he has been dealing with an injury bug, but like Kevin Durant, when he's healthy, and he's going to play every game, we're getting about 28, 30 points a game. You combine that with a guy in Jimmy Butler who's going to give you close to 30 points a game that can also facilitate and play really good defense. The thing that Miami's been missing is a second option, because you bring in Victor Oladipo and you bring in Kyle Lowry, and Kyle Lowry was a shell of himself and that didn't really work, and yet that's asking way too much of Victor Oladipo, who's coming off successive major surgeries and a lot of injuries over the last couple of years. And as much as I think that Bam is fantastic, and if he was healthy this year, I think he would have been a depoy candidate. I don't know if Bam has it in him at this point yet to be a reliable second option. Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant, you have Bam. You can send Kyle Lowry and everyone else. You don't really need Kyle Lowry at that point because Jimmy can go back to doing what he was doing in Philly a couple years ago, which is be the primary ball handler and be the facilitator. I love KD to Miami. I think KD to Miami instantly makes them. They're already title contenders, but it definitely puts them over the hump as they would probably. This would be their best shot of winning a championship since LeBron was there and they had the heat. Like it would be writings on the wall at that point.
Yeah, I saw the tweets out there. You know, people love getting on KD. People are like, oh, you know, KD said he wants the 1 seeds. You know, he said 1 seed me. Like, bro, like, come on, bro. Like, you want him to say he wants to go to the Pistons or the
why would he do that?
Or the
why would he do that?
Come on, bro. Like, why are we even doing that?
Yeah.
But no, I would be shocked if Miami is not trying to stack the deck to make.
And we're talking about.
That's a big move. That's a big swing, and for them to be that close to have, to be that close to making the finals, it's like it comes down to obviously Pat Riley, the Godfather, and the high. It's like, do they want to swing for the fences? Do they want to do that at this point?
And this is a story that not many. It's been told only a couple times. This is a guy in Pat Riley who was inches away from getting Tim Duncan to join the Miami Heat. Like, this is a guy who literally, I remember, I don't remember who it was, but I remember hearing the story and how Tim Duncan met with Pat Riley and it was going to go through with Pat. And Tim said, let me go call Pop first. And they was like, oh yeah, well, if he got to go call Pop, that means he's not coming. But like, this is a guy who was getting that dude, one of the cornerstones of the Spurs franchise dynasty, really, Tim Duncan. Like, this is a man we like to call, people like to call Daryl Morey a basketball genius. No. Pat Riley is a basketball god, and he will move mountains if it means getting a championship. A reporter asked Pat a couple months ago during the playoffs if he was thinking about retirement, and he said, "Man, I can still do more push-ups than you, and I'm close to 8." Like Pat Riley can. You talk about moving mountains. He can do that. KD to Miami, I think would be a seamless fit. I'm on record on the show as saying that the reason why Kevin Durant to Golden State worked was because Kevin Durant could just be dropped into that team without having to sacrifice anything of his game. And there's not many, if at all, other players in the league at that time that you could just drop into Golden State and no one have to really sacrifice anything as far as their play style. This is the exact same thing. You can drop KD into Miami. KD can still be KD. Jimmy can go back to being Jimmy, where he can give you those 30, 40-point games if you need it. But he really just wants to be that dog and facilitate. And he could do that alongside Kevin Durant. Bam could focus on being the defensive anchor down low, give you 20 and 10, 20 and 12. You've got Tyler Hero coming off the bench now for 4 more years. He was just the Smody for a reason, right? That would be, I think, the perfect fit. And originally I thought, and we'll talk about this in a second too, Bradley Beal was declining his option with Washington to go to Miami. And I thought that would be a perfect fit. But this one's even better because this is a guy who is a proven number 1 option on a championship team. It would make everything just be beautiful.
Yeah,
right.
They need a number 2 option. They need a number 1 option.
They need a number 1 option.
If Jimmy can be the number 2 option, that would be the best. To a guy like Durant.
Yeah, bro, that would be the best. That would be the best. There's one more guy that has walked the halls of Brooklyn that has since left, and that's James Harden. James Harden's declined his player option, and he's supposed to be meeting with Philadelphia this weekend to talk about his new contract in Philly. Were you at all surprised that James Harden decided to come back for what appears is going to be lesser money next season in Philadelphia?
No, I feel like he knows he needs to make it work. I feel like he knows he needs to make it work, and he's smart enough to know where he's at with his game, at least what he showed this past season. Yeah. I mean, it would just be greedy, and he makes too much money outside of his NBA contract. He doesn't need the money grab. He knows that. So no, I think he knows Philly is a passionate fan base. He knows that Philly doesn't play around, so he shouldn't play around with them and come off like he doesn't care. So I think he's just being very cognizant of his situation and where he's at. And I mean, I don't want to say I'm surprised, but I'm impressed for sure. Like that's, good for him. I mean, he's putting the team in a position to try and make more moves so they can win. I mean, good for him.
You got Joel Embiid, obviously, who a lot of people think, and I'm one of those people, should have been the MVP this season. You have Tyrese Maxey, who played incredible this season. There's two guys, though, on this roster that may or may not be on the move. Apparently, there's rumors that Matisse Thybulle and Tobias Harris are being shopped by the Philadelphia 76ers. If they were to go, who do you think, if they have to pick one, who would you rather keep if you're in charge of Philly and you? Because I feel like one of them's gone. One of them, I think, is definitely going to be gone so that they can kind of deepen the bench. Because I think that was the big problem, was the bench was lackluster after the trade for Harden that involved Ben Simmons and like 75% of their bench, really.
Yeah.
Who do you think they keep? Who do you think they let go? And then what do you think they're looking for as far as trying to bolster this team back up so they can run deep and be competitive again?
Between Thybulle and
Tobias Harris.
And Tobias,
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, Thybulle's cheaper, but I feel like
cheaper, yeah.
I feel like you should try to keep Tobias. Just to go back to James Harden, because it's related. I don't feel like Philadelphia can reach whatever they're looking for in terms of role players and bench, which is important, and you do need those type of players.
Yeah.
The Philadelphia 76ers will not reach their potential. They will not reach their dreams of this NBA championship with this group unless James Harden becomes elite again. That's the only way it works. That's why I was a little confused in terms of his mindset of why go to Philly where, bro, you have a big two. There's no big three there.
Do you think if he gets elite at this role, it'll be different? Because a lot of people want him to go back to being the 40 and 10 guy that would light it up. Do you think if he's the 25 and the 12 guy that's elite and that's enough, or does he have to go back to being the Houston James Harden? Because I think
25
the Houston James Harden didn't do anything. You know what I mean? That didn't result in championship.
25 and 12 is elite. That's what he needs to play elite basketball. It doesn't have to be Houston. It
doesn't matter what version of it as long as it's elite.
No, it has to be like, he flirts with this whole point guard thing. That's why I got confused as I was watching him, I don't want to say decline, but just when his struggles, I'll say. One of the things, I did a video on it on my channel, just talking about, like, because I'm watching James Harden at the beginning of the season on Brooklyn, like, yo, he's not even looking to score. Like, I could get the whole not being in shape and stuff like that. Like, I get that, but like, for one, I see him in Brickley's gym doing things that I'm like, okay, you can still move, bro.
Yeah,
like you can. I see you working on new footwork, new sidestep count. Like, I see what you're doing, bro. You still have it. So you're out there playing like a point guard, and I thought he fell too in love with the whole point guard Harden thing, because even back in OKC, it was like, oh, he can play point. Now we can get Russ off. Russ doesn't have to be the point, because Harden, like, I thought people were cornering him into this point guard mentality too much, because I'm like, yo, you're not even looking to score. He would just be driving and everything is just passed for. I'm like, bro, score the ball. Like, what are you doing? Like, what is this, bro? Like, that's not physical, bro. It's like something. I'm like, bro, why aren't you looking to score? So I'm just talking about the James Harden that is looking to and able to score, who is obviously is conditioning physically. That plays a role, because he needs to hold up and be able to hit big shots late in the games, etc. So no, I'm just talking about over 20 points, 10 assists, elite James Harden taking care of the ball. Like, he still needs to play his best basketball. Yeah. There's no like reverting into, even if he becomes just like a really good point guard that takes care of the ball, that's not enough on this team. You don't have a bunch of, that's not the way the team is set up. So I don't know what they're looking for, or what they feel like is going to be the perfect mix around to try and, bro, you can't minimize what a player like James Harden has to be as your lead guard to lead you to a championship. I don't care how good Joel Embiid is. He didn't get a full season with Harden, so I'm not even gonna go to the season. But it's like, I don't care how good Embiid is. James Harden has to be elite if they're gonna win. He still has to be elite. Not Houston, not going crazy, not even like first team all NBA. No, I'm just saying elite. He has to be elite.
Consistently elite basketball is the key. And I mean, you've outlined it perfectly. We talked about Kyrie maybe going to LA. I think that's a pipe dream. Let's say Kyrie doesn't go to LA. I don't foresee a scenario where he stays in Brooklyn, but it is possible. So I'd say there's no LA and there's no Brooklyn. Where is Kyrie playing basketball next season?
Bro, I have no idea. I have no idea. I like it I don't know. It feels like the Lakers. I'm sure there are teams out there that would want to play ball with Kyrie, that would want to bring him in. My biggest fear is that it's a team like, New Orleans or I don't know, but that's my biggest fear. Indiana, like Sacramento, like I would. Oh God, that would just be depressing to see that happen to brother Kyrie. But I know there's a team. Most contenders have their point guards and stuff, so it's hard to say which of the contending teams are going to. It's not Golden State, it's not Milwaukee, it's not Miami, it's not the Clippers, it's not. What happened?
As we're talking about Kyrie Irving, Bleacher Report just said, according to ESPN, LA is making Irving its #1 trade target after news of KD's trade request.
I'm not surprised. That's what
if the Lakers they are going all in.
If the Lakers know that Kyrie's interested, bro, I don't know how that works with Russ. I mean, not even like working. I'm talking about like what they're trying to get Russ. I don't care what they say. If we just go back to the trade machines, I was kind of playing around with it while we were talking about it. What we're looking at is both big twos would be included. Like Russ and AD would be included, obviously, and they would get sent to Brooklyn, I would imagine. I don't see how you keep AD. You could. I mean, you could. But as far as matching contracts, the best way to do it would be AD and Russ for KD and Kyrie. Like I said, there'd still be $7 million missing. So I'm thinking you're talking about Nick Claxton, and then some combination of Nick Claxton, Cam Thomas, and Patty Mills kind of in there. Patty Mills just signed his extension today to go back to Brooklyn. But a combination of those three players I feel like have to be included to make the salaries match. You can do it without the salaries matching, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we're getting, if that's what it is, that's what we're talking, something like that. Wouldn't the Lakers? Russ's contract is the biggest one out of those.
Russ's contract is $47.1 million. I can pull it back up. So Russ's contract, Russ's contract is $47.1 million. KD's contract is $42 million. Kyrie Irving's is $36.9, so that's about $37 million. And then AD's contract is $37.9 mil. So if you just do a player swap like that, LA would free up $44 million in cap space, but they'd be over the tax line by $20 million. That's nothing new for LA because they've been dancing around the luxury tax for as long as they've been the Lakers. The Nets would be freeing up $56 million in cap space, and they'd be over the cap by 32.6, or the tax 32.6. The salaries are about a $7 million difference. Lakers are acquiring 77.4 mil, and the Nets would be acquiring 85 mil. So the Nets would have to send a little bit more so the salaries can match, and the luxury tax and all that stuff can still be about balance, is what I would expect the Lakers to do. Yeah.
I'm not surprised, bro. This is their chance. Yeah. Look who's on the board. Once I saw what was happening, bro, I'm like, yo, KD and Kyrie are about to be on the board. Like they're about to be shopping.
It's insane.
And I knew they still wanted to play together. I knew it. I knew that was the case. If they can make it happen, they're gonna try.
Oh, they can. I think they're absolutely going to try their best. I don't think. I think again, the issue with Brooklyn wasn't that the KD and the Kyrie fit didn't work. It's that we just didn't see it because either KD was hurt or Kyrie wasn't playing, or Kyrie was hurt and KD. Like it was just.
But when we did see it, it was.
When we did see it, it was phenomenal. Yeah, it was absolutely phenomenal basketball.
It was unstoppable. When we saw it, it was. What I saw was.
And clearly what we've seen now since he's been in Brooklyn is that Kyrie can play off the ball. It's not that he could never, but that was also one of the questions was, how is all this work? Who's going to be on the ball? Kyrie has no problem playing off the ball, which means the whole ball dominant thing with LeBron James isn't an issue. You've got despite him wanting to leave Cleveland, the chemistry still exists there. And again, Kevin Durant is I don't care. I'll down this hill. Kevin Durant is the one guy in basketball today, I honestly believe. Doesn't matter whether you put him on the Bucks, the Warriors, you can put him on a bad team, a great team, a contending team. He can still be him. without having to sacrifice anything. LeBron can still be LeBron. LeBron can go back to being that point guard, and you can line him up at the 1, and Kyrie can be the 2, and you can have, you know, Nick Claxton, Cam Thomas, guys like that coming off the bench and filling the roles. You still have Carmelo. I don't know if Carmelo is coming back, but there was a stretch of the season where Carmelo was the best player on the team and he was hitting clutch shots. And despite the fact that no one thought he could ball for 2.5 years, Carmelo Anthony can still play basketball and he can still be really good at basketball. And excel in his role.
If they have Kyrie, KD, and LeBron, bro, who cares who else is?
Yeah, that's insane.
Who cares? Melo's gonna be fine, bro. Please, Melo is gonna be in heaven.
100%. He'll get that ring. He'll get that ring before he leaves. 100%.
Oh my god. But it might be, bro. I'm telling you, bro. Bron is looking like I said Bron had to make one last power move. I've been saying that.
You did say that. You came on the show the first time and you said one last power move is all they need.
Not Russell Westbrook, bro. He tried to sell us on it, but that wasn't it, bro. That wasn't it. I got it at the time, but I felt like it was kind of just he chose that over Buddy Hield because he felt that was more of a power move. Like, Russ is a power move.
Yeah,
it just went completely wrong.
Yeah, it didn't work out.
It was the people who thought it was going to be bad. It was worse than what they even thought.
Yeah.
Bro, if you can make it up with Kyrie,
that'd be insane.
Oh my God.
That'd be insane. Before we dive into Brad Beal, since we're talking about LeBron, I do want to ask you this because you are on record as saying he needs at least 2. But given the trajectory of LeBron James, and he looks like he's not slowing down anytime soon, he is on pace to pass Kareem for the most points in the regular season, right? Yeah. So let's say he doesn't get 2 rings. Well, let's say he becomes the all-time leading scorer, and he is on pace to be the first player ever to get to score 40,000. Is that enough in your mind, because you're a Jordan guy, is that enough in your mind to make the conversation close, that he'd be the only guy in NBA history to be top 10 or 5 in all the major categories, but more specifically, he's the all-time leading scorer with 4 rings in his career? Is that enough, or do you think he'd still need at least 1 more ring, even with all that, to solidify or make it competitive?
Circumstances matter because it matters who he plays, how he gets there, who does what. That is going to matter. I can't say definitively, but I will say that based on the field, based on what I said before, I mean, Golden State is back. Giannis is here. There are other really good teams. The Clippers are coming back. The threats are high, and it's getting harder, not easier.
Yeah.
Based on that, again, it depends on the path and everything and injuries. You never know. I mean,
you never know.
There's injury circumstances every playoff. I always say that. But based on the field and how things are looking, if he gets 1 more, based on everything you said, with him, passing Kareem and stuff, 1 more, Mike, at his age, now, if he's about to have KD and Kyrie, bro, trust me, I will be on the front lines making sure that the rhetoric is sound and true. Because if he, bro, because
if KD and Kyrie goes to LA, all anybody is going to say is LeBron's hiding behind KD and Kyrie, and that's
and look, Bron, even with KD and Kyrie, Bron is going to be great. He's going to be the one who makes it all work. He's going to be the glue guy, but like he's going to end up playing more of like I'm going to be honest, like a Draymond Green role, which I've said.
I think he could excel in that role.
The latest in Bron's career, bro, which is where we're coming up to soon. If he can be in a situation where he can just be like the playmaking 4 and just do short rolls and just make passes and just like float around pretty much, not have to. But now I don't know if he is willing and able to relinquish that responsibility. I don't know. I don't know if he's one of those, like, how Kobe used to say, like, bro, if I can't average 20 in the game anymore, I'm done. Like, forget that.
I think he's one of those. I think LeBron's definitely one of those where if he can't average 20, I don't know.
He's probably on that too. He probably is. But he's talking about playing with his sons, and there's all stuff with that too. But again, if he's really trying to draw it out, bro, you can't. You can't
be the best way to draw it out. It doesn't have to be
Come on, bro. Like, you need to now. If he's hunting this situation to get one last super team under his belt, he will be the third. I'm not saying he has to be, but a big 2 with just him and AD, it's not enough right now.
It's not.
You need at least 1 or 2 more guys who are like above you on the pecking order right now to give yourself a shot. It's nothing against LeBron. It's just based on like where things are right now. He needs that kind of support. He deserves it too.
Let's talk about support. Let's talk about deserving sport. I mentioned earlier, Bradley Beal earlier this week opted out of his contract, and everyone thought that meant he was leaving DC. But as Bradley Beal has done, he just got the bag more. I believe his contract is $4,251,000,000, which is yet another max extension for Mr. Bradley Beal. Thoughts on this? Because you know what everyone's going to say. Oh, Bradley Beal is not tired of losing. Stephen A. Smith even got on First Take about a week and a half ago and said, when will Bradley Beal be tired of losing? I'm not a Wizards fan. I am a DC native, though, right? I'm born and raised in DC. I've gone to my fair share of Wizards games. Almost all of them have resulted in a loss, but I've still gotten to see Bradley Beal up close and personal, and it's been incredible. This is what I will say about Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal, I think, is being held to a standard that he can't meet. I think what we're doing to Brad is we're recognizing that there's a lot of really talented players that have kind of gone to other situations and it's worked, and we've forgotten just exactly who Bradley Beal is. Bradley Beal was never really the number one option in Washington. He was thrusted into that role because of all the injuries with John Wall. But despite that, Bradley Beal was still incredible. We're talking about 2 years ago, the year after the bubble, Bradley Beal was going back and forth with Steph Curry on the back half of the season about who was going to be the scoring champion. He was averaging 30. Even in the games he's played, Bradley Beal has averaged, if I'm not mistaken, 29 points for the last 3 seasons, which is second in the NBA across that span. Like, he has been phenomenal. The issue is he had no help. There's nobody on that team, really. Now, we've seen some talent. We saw, obviously, they made the trade for Kristaps Porzingis. Kyle Kuzma had a really good season this season, his first year in DC. Unfortunately, they did just ship KCP off to, I can't remember who they sent it to, but KCP's gone. Are you surprised that Brad stayed in DC, and are you one of those guys that thinks that he should have left to try to go win a championship? I love the loyalty. The loyalty is incredible. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, selfishly, like I'm a huge Bradley Beal fan, and I love his game, so I love to see him on a contender. But that's I mean, selfishly, I would love to see his game among other people who are elite and who are on his level. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you've got Dame out there. You've got, I mean, everyone's not going to have their time in the sun. It won't happen for everybody. And you know, it's tough. I mean, Bradley Beal is he's gonna cook. He's gonna continue to cook people.
Oh, of course.
You know, but the thing is, the Wizards are. I mean, listen, the Wizards are doing things to at least make themselves, competitive and decent. They're just not. Mm-hmm. The culture of the NBA now is free agency and attracting stars. Yeah. And the Wizards are just not an attractive free agent destination.
No one wants to come to DC.
It would take a lot of work. No one's running to come to DC. It's going to take time, just like with the Knicks. Everything takes. You're just going to have to wait it out and see when it happens for you guys. But yeah, Brad Beal. I mean, it would. Sometimes I think, like, I'll watch the season. It's like, well, if they they might start like 5-20 or something, and he's like, man, he might just hit his tipping point where he just go ahead and request a trade. Like, you know what?
It's possible. No, it is very possible. It is very possible.
It could happen. It could happen, bro, because they are going to continue to lose. And
for sure.
For sure. And it's not a knock against him, but
it's just I got into it. It wasn't really. I got into a conversation with my friend about this the other day about the Wizards. It's not that Brad's bad. It's not that Brad can't win. It's that the organization hasn't done anything to invest into the team and want to be competitive. I mean, I bring up this scenario all the time, and it's a grandiose scenario because it's LeBron James, but it's a scenario that applies. LeBron James, in his first 8 years in the NBA when he was with Cleveland, they weren't invested in LeBron James. Look at who was on the roster. They weren't really interested in trying to build around this guy that had been dubbed as the next man up at 16 years old, and when he was still in high school, and then obviously coming into the NBA. And yet somehow he was able to, despite all of that, drag a very, very bad Cleveland Cavaliers team to the finals in 2007. Brad's not that dude. Brad is not, and I love Brad, but Brad can't drag the Wizards to the finals in this Eastern Conference. He just can't. But if the Wizards would invest, if they would invest and build around him, who knows? We're talking about in Russ's only year there, they made the playoffs because they found they traded for a guy that was really talented that you could trust to be the number one option, and look what it brought them. It brought them a playoff berth for the first time in forever. Like, now you've got Kristaps Porzingis. We'll see if maybe that, I don't know if that's enough, but it's definitely better than what you had last season for sure going in. So it'll be interesting to see what Bradley Beal looks like this season. I think he'll be fantastic. He is coming off of surgery. He opted to. I mean, I don't blame him. When your team's not good, opt into some season-ending surgery so that you can get better and come back next season. That's not that big of a deal. Last thing before we go, there's two more moves I really want to talk about that have kind of shaken things up. One in the West, one in the East. John Wall's to the Clippers. He got a buyout from the Rockets. He's moving on to go play with the LA Clippers. It could get really crowded out there in LA if KD and Kyrie go out there. On the other hand, yesterday, Dejounte Murray was traded from San Antonio to Atlanta to join forces with Trae Young down there in the A. Which move do you think is better? John Wall to the Clippers or Dejounte Murray to the Hawks?
Oh, I like Dejounte Murray much more, just because, and I've always loved John Wall, still do, and I'm really excited to see what he can do to help the Clippers, because I feel like he can if he's ready to go, and I'm sure he will be. The Hawks, I said that Trae Young needed another star. He's one of the young guys, like him, Donovan Mitchell, Luka. It's like, one of these guys, if not a few, Ja Morant, one of these guys is going to emerge soon and win a championship. One of these guys is going to win. And it's just a matter of, again, circumstances. Are any of them going to team up? Is it going to take that? Are the Warriors just going to be too good for too long for the next 3 to 5 or whatever? But the thing is, those guys are young. So even after the Warriors do whatever,
they'll still have more than enough time.
They'll still be around. They have more than enough time. So I'm watching those young guys. But I said, like, Trae specifically, he really could. I believe, I'm a huge Trae fan, but I'm like, he really needs an elite wing. Like, let him get an elite wing to team up with. Obviously, you say a big, but like, especially with the NBA nowadays, it's like, give him one of these elite wing. Like, imagine if he had Jason Tatum or like, he really does need. I think he needs to team up with another elite player to give Atlanta a chance. And I wasn't thinking Dejounte Murray.
I wasn't either. Yeah.
But he's a huge upgrade from what they had to complement Trae in the backcourt. He does defensively and offensively. He does things that are really gonna relieve Trae from from having to do a lot of things and just take a lot of pressure off him. I love that move for them, because it's like, it's low key, but he proved to be an all-star. He led the league in steals, right? Like, Dejounte Murray proved a lot for what he can do individually last year. So I think what he does is going to get at, I still think Atlanta's in like that second tier in the East, but I think he gives them a chance to, the Clippers, you just have so many question marks because you've got to see all those guys back, including Wall. With Atlanta, I feel like that was such a sound, weird, but also beautiful move that I think is going to make them look a lot better.
They'll definitely look better. I am on record as I was really hard on the trade last night. I'm not gonna lie, I was really hard on the trade last night because long term, of course, you look at it. These are two young guys on the right side of 25, right? And you look at it and you say, okay, they've got it. They've got a solid backcourt to build around, and having a solid backcourt goes a real long way in this league, especially when they have that time to build chemistry. But the two things I said was, these are two guys that down the road, like, okay, San Antonio moved on from Dejounte Murray because they wanted to avoid a potential cap disaster with him demanding a max contract, which his talent will likely deserve. Well, the Hawks have just added another guy that's going to want. Dejounte Murray's requests aren't going to change because he's in Atlanta. That's not going to go away. He's still going to be a close to max player potentially when his contract is up. And you also have Trae Young, who we already know is getting a max again. The next chance it comes. Like we know that. He got the rookie max on his extension. He's going to get another one. He's going to keep getting them until he declines. And even when he declines, they still might give him to him because it's Trae freaking Young. That's the first thing. The second thing is, when you look at the Eastern Conference, there are a lot of guys in the Eastern Conference that are on the right side of 30 that are either just now hitting their primes or already in their prime. We're talking about a team, the Boston Celtics, who just went to the finals with JT and Jaylen Brown. Both those guys are 25 and 24 respectively. We're talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's 26. Joel Embiid's on the right side of 30, and he's in Philly. We know that, You know, we know that Miami's got Jimmy Butler and he's on the other side of 30, but bringing KD, that's a tough. So the Hawks long term, will they be good? I think so. They'll of course continue to get better, but I don't know if this is a needle mover. Like they could still be in that same bucket with teams like the Hornets who are getting better. Teams like I'm drawing blanks on the Pistons, who I think could be a really good team this season. The Raptors are still going to be relatively okay in that second tier, high second, like the Cavs, who shocked the world this season and was really good until they kind of fell off. But like they're still good. So are the Hawks on the upper echelon of
the needle in that tier? It doesn't move the needle necessarily.
That's really just the. It would have to be. This is a move you love if you have a lot of confidence in Atlanta's ability to build around these two moving forward. And I think that's what's going to determine if this is a good move. On the other side, to your point, there are a lot of questions about Los Angeles because John Wall hasn't played a full season of basketball in a really long time, and he hasn't been on a basketball court in the NBA in 2 years. That's a thing. Kawhi missed the entire season due to injury. Paul George was in and out of the lineup this season due to injury. But Kawhi coming back, if Kawhi is Kawhi, or even if he's 80% of Kawhi. And I said the same thing about Klay Thompson last season. If Kawhi comes back as 80% of Kawhi and Paul George is still Paul George, these are two guys that we all acknowledge are two of, if not the two best two-way players in the league. Like, they're very good at what they do. And as Kevin Durant said, wings run the league. You find yourself one league, you find yourself one wing, you're really good. You got two, you're phenomenal. Now, I get it, right? The Clippers haven't necessarily lived up to the hype. That's because of the injury bug. They haven't been able to play a lot of games together. So to your point, that could be an issue. But if John Wall is healthy, Kawhi Leonard's healthy, and Paul George is healthy, and they play enough games together, they get that chemistry. When you talk about guys like Reggie Jackson, and you still have, your Norman Powell and all this, they're still coached by a guy in Ty Lue, who was a top 5 coach in the league, doesn't get a lot of credit, in my opinion. This could be, I think, a top 3 team in the West next season, and a team and a force to be reckoned with in the league. Again, as you mentioned, right, injuries kind of come with it, and these are 3 guys that have dealt with injury a lot over the past couple seasons. Yeah. But if healthy, and we're talking about a situation, because they're not going to play every game. Kawhi Leonard load manages, so they're not going to play all 82. But we're talking about a situation, I would say if Kawhi Leonard can play 60 games, if Paul George plays 60, 65 games, and we're talking about John Wall playing at least 50, because this would be his first season back fully healthy, that's really good. That's a winning recipe for LA. The win total is going to go up. This is a really good ball club. They're going to be better than the Timberwolves. I think they'll be better than the Mavericks. They'll be better than the Nuggets, even though they're getting their pieces back. I think they'll be better than the Grizzlies. Like, this is going to be a force to be reckoned with. I like this one a little bit better just because there's much more, I think, security as far as where you're looking at with the heavy hitters in the conference. Whereas with Murray and it going to Atlanta, I love the move. It's fantastic. And I was hard on it last night, but you have to have a lot of faith that Atlanta can continue to cultivate and build around these 2 guys instead of 1 guy, which is, it's always nice to have to build around 2 instead of 1, of course.
Right. Yeah.
That's really my only thing is there's a little bit of hesitation. I think this trade's still incomplete because there's potential that John Collins gets moved. There's still a couple other things that they can do. The one thing I will say, too, when you talk about elite wings, he's not elite. I was shocked that they moved on from Cam Reddish this season. That was a shocker to me because I thought he could have I thought he could have done really good things. And then to get rid of him and bring in Kevin Knox, that was confusing to me, to say the least. But again, we'll see what they do, right? This is only day 1 of free agency. There's still a lot more days left, and of course, we'll see what they look like. But this will be like it's a cheesy thing to say because we say it all the time now. This will be a fun team to play with in 2K, and it'll be a fun team to watch play basketball next season for sure because you got 2 young guys in the backcourt.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of fun. Like, as crazy as we knew this season was going to be this past season, and it was, next season's already shaping out to be.
It's already shaping out to be
already. I mean,
much better.
Every year the league just gets crazier now.
Yeah, it's insane. It's going to be really interesting. I do want to say I know I'm going to have friends and family text me and say, "Why is it dark?" I'm having lighting problems. Okay, people, that's why it's so dark. I get it. I'm sorry, but it happens sometimes. It's always a pleasure to talk to Martin. Me and Martin, we kind of go back and forth in Instagram DMs. It's nice to finally get you back on the show. Please let everybody know where they can find you. Remind them real quick about the Basketball Society and all that good stuff that you got going on as well.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me too, bro. I'll come on anytime, and I appreciate you. Basketball Society _ on Instagram. I'm Martin.Soaries on Instagram. We got the Basketball Society podcast. It's on YouTube and on iTunes and SoundCloud as well. yeah, I'm around. I'm talking basketball. Definitely check me out. And always a pleasure to be here, man, and talk hoops with you. I will say the one thing I was just remembered too about the Clippers. Draymond said himself that he know that they're the team he's looking for next year. So
yeah, they're gonna be a scary team.
Everybody knows if they're right and they're healthy, they're going to be scary.
It could be very interesting. Basketball Society pod, by the way, great pod. I listen to it all the time. It's phenomenal. You guys should definitely
thank you, bro.
Check it out. And I tell him this all the time. I love it. He is. There are not many people that just in general that like are really good at what they do, and he's really good at what he does. And it's phenomenal. So. If you're sick of listening to me sometimes, go listen to him because it's really good. With that being said, again, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you guys for watching and listening, all that stuff and all the support. I really appreciate it. Follow on all socials, GTP Marcus on everything, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, of course, because you're watching on YouTube. And if you can't find me, you're not trying hard enough because I'm everywhere. So use the Googlers. That's what they're for. So for Martin Soaries of the Basketball Society, this is Marcus of Go Talk with Marcus signing off. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, you guys enjoy the rest of your lives.